Steve Caliper sat his butt down on the couch and considered his options. The whole day lay before him. The possibilities were something like endless. 5 minutes earlier, he'd called the office and had Marcy put him through to Aaron, his boss. He had said to Aaron, "You know, Aaron, I'm feeling just shy of a full deck today," an expression he'd heard on television last week and thought he'd try out for himself. He waited for Aaron to reply. When he heard nothing on the other end of the line, he'd said, "I'm a little under the weather, you see. More than a little. A lot. I'm a lot under the weather, Aaron." Through the phone, he'd heard only the faint static of empty space. "Tell you the truth, Aaron, I am miles and miles beneath the weather today, so unfortunately, I won't make it into the office. I wanted to let you know as soon as I could." He'd said all this with his left hand balled in a tight fist to his side, while he drummed his right hand fingers on the coffee table in front of him, and balanced the receiver between clavicle and ear, like his mother did when he was a boy. The staticky silence he heard while he waited was enough to stop Steve Caliper's heart and drop him to the floor in a jumbled mess of limbs, making his whole story of being unfit for work today ironically, painfully true. After a long while, Steve Caliper heard Aaron's lips open on the other end of the line. A slow peeling sound, like a pair of fleshy legs parting from the seat of a plastic chair in the summer. Aaron said, "Yeah, fine, no worries, we'll see you tomorrow," and he hung up the phone. Steve Caliper released his fist. He stopped his other hand's fingers drumming. He blinked once or twice. He set down the phone. Then, as if in a dream, he made his way to the couch in the living room. He sank down to his place in the middle cushion. Out the living room window, he saw a bird in the distance gliding in big, wide circles amidst clouds. He smiled. Today would be a good day. He could do whatever he wanted. He could get his life together. He could finally take the time to get things in order. He could rejoin the health club and get a private training session in. He could visit the sauna, the ice bath, grab a mango protein smoothie on the way out. He could sit down and take care of his finances. He could call and schedule his routine colonoscopy. He could brave the outside world, buy groceries, do his laundry, clean his home top to bottom, phone his mother or father or both. He could begin writing his screenplay or his novel. All of these options and infinite more were available to him in this precious surplus of free time he'd secured for himself. He just had to think up what to do with it. Steve Caliper switched on the television. He was still smiling with no signs of stopping. He wiggled his legs together like a grasshopper, like when you crawl into bed and it's so comfy you can't believe. Electric currents of hope and joy coursed out from the friction between his calves. He remembered staying home from school as a boy. He remembered his mother making chicken soup for him. He remembered that moment of opiate relief at the realization he would not have to turn up at class and face Mrs. Carnay, or Tyler, or Braden, or Jack. The realization he could stay in bed all day, watching television and eating cereal, with no one to come in and bother him. Those were the days. No matter how far under the weather he was, there was always a profound joy at the unlimited possibilities of a sick day. Steve Caliper switched on the television and watched it. The television played a program called Carlisle, about a man named Carlisle, who was a bounty hunter with a mop of wind-swept hair. It was 8:49 a.m., so these were just reruns, but Steve Caliper enjoyed them all the same. In this episode, Carlisle had been hired by some wealthy real estate tycoon to hunt down a man he suspected was screwing his wife. Most episodes were a variation of this type of thing. Carlisle always succeeded in finding his target, but ended up sleeping with the client's wife more than half the time. That's what was going on in this episode anyway. When Steve Caliper switched it on, Carlisle was nearing the pivotal moment of making love to the client's wife. He was always stoic while making love, Steve Caliper noticed. Expressionless, placid with every stroke, his breathing rhythmic, measured. Not a grunt escaped him. Carlisle's upper body was lean and defined, deep-set ridges between pectorals and abdominal muscles as if they were carved from granite, capped deltoids. He was tan. Steve Caliper caught himself watching the television with his mouth hanging open. He lifted his left hand to shut it. Then he looked down at the coffee table where he poured himself a bowl of cereal. He had a box he saved in a cupboard in his garage for sick days like these. He didn't much like the taste of it, but it brought him back to childhood. He would eat 2 bowls of it and no more. Then he'd put the box away. Maybe throw the box out altogether. He would decide on that later. He poured the first bowl. He watched the television program and turned the volume all the way up to accommodate the sound of his chewing. The cereal was stale and hard, and his teeth crunched it down into little pieces, the way timber turns to wood chips in the machine that does that. His chewing was industrial, almost. Occasionally he glanced out the window to see the bird out there, gliding about, close enough to the window now that he could see it was a hawk, wings spread wide and proud, circling the earth below, searching for something to kill. His eyes drifted back to the television. Carlisle was shirtless once again, but not making love. Then the program went to commercial break, and Steve Caliper watched ad placements for a local pizza joint with clearly a little extra marketing spend, then a prescription medication for inflammatory bowel disease, then a new television program about fatter-than-fat people aiming to lose as much weight as possible in one televised month's time, and then a new headset that could put you in another world, any world you wanted, and then a home fitness muscle-building program that would get him 20 pounds of lean mass in just 6 months if he ordered today. And Steve Caliper was leaned all the way forward with his fingers on the telephone, ready to dial when his show came back on. He drank the milk from the bottom of the cereal bowl with 2 hands. During this time, he got a call from a colleague at work asking where he was and did he plan on coming in for the budget meeting today. And Steve Caliper said to him, "No, I'm sick. I'm quite out of it, you see. I'm many hundreds of nautical miles under the weather today. And I have to focus what limited remaining energy I have on getting better so that I may return to my post on Monday and once again contribute my expertise to any number of budget meetings at any number of future junctures. And surely you can understand that, right, Bob?" But Bob had already hung up his end of the line, and Steve Caliper only noticed this when he himself stopped speaking, and in the absence of words could hear the harsh ringing of the disconnected sound blaring out the other end of the line. Steve Caliper continued having a lovely morning. He ate 3 bowls of cereal. He watched the television until Carlisle stopped playing and it switched to something else. He masturbated once from his place on the couch and cleaned himself off with a tissue he had on hand at the coffee table and continued watching television. Somehow the hawk remained always visible just outside the window. He thought about what might be happening at the office right about now, and once again giggled and wiggled his calves together like a happy little grasshopper, just overjoyed he was not there and was instead free to do what he wanted today. He went back to thinking what he wanted to do with his day. He had the whole day to get himself together. He could finally take up martial arts, register for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Krav Maga. He could buy an electric keyboard and learn to play it. He could go to a singles bar and try talking to someone, a special someone maybe. He could apply for a new job. He could do any number of things. Each time Steve Caliper felt a current of excitement about any one potential action, he felt himself almost rise from the couch to carry it out, but then quickly reassign it to some future juncture. He had the whole day in front of him, he reminded himself. Then he went back to thinking up options. During this period of thinking, he lit a cigarette and smoked it inside his home, right on the couch he sat on watching television. He smoked one cigarette and then another, and then felt a current of excitement from his grasshopper calves rubbing together at the thought of throwing away all the rest of his cigarettes at the end of this sick day. On Monday, he would return to reality. Assigning the action item of getting back to reality to the future juncture of Monday afforded him total, unconditional freedom today. This sense of freedom gave him real chemical pleasure in his bloodstream, a pleasure matched in equal potency by the thought of getting back on track on Monday. On Monday, he would wake up early and do 30 push-ups and take a cold shower before going into the office, and while he thought about all this, he smoked another cigarette in the house and masturbated on the couch and tried to eat cereal on the couch, but realized all too late the box was empty. He had run out. His lips were sticky. His fingers were sticky. He coughed up some phlegm, swallowed it. He changed the channel. Around noon, Steve Caliper decided he should at least try to be a little productive today. He had run through the list of things he had to do at least 3 separate times now. He was not ready to get up and begin. No, not at all. So he made a plan in his head about what he would do when he was ready. He would get up from the couch, put on some clothes, and get in his car. That was the first step. All he had to do was the first step. Everything else would follow, naturally, as a byproduct. He lit and smoked another cigarette and dropped the butt in his empty cereal bowl, where it fizzled out in the low-lying puddle of remaining milk, now drying. He put his list of tasks to do in the proper order in his mind. First, he would join the health club. He would smile at every employee and passing member of the health club. Then he would boot up his home computer and manage his finances. Then he would work on the deliverable his colleague needed for the budget meeting. Then he would go grocery shopping and prepare a wholesome dinner of tuna steak and russet potatoes and arugula salad. And then he would go to bed on time so he could wake up refreshed and show up at the office right in line with, or perfectly adjacent to, if not even a little above, the weather. That was the plan. It was a good plan. He tried masturbating while he thought through the plan, but could not, because the plan did not make him feel particularly hot and heavy, and also it had been 3 times already, and there's only so much a man can take. On the television was an ad for the local pizza joint again, and this time they had a phone number on the screen. Steve Caliper scrambled to dial the number before the commercial changed, and then he sat with the receiver to his ear, panting, his heart beating loud and fast in his ears as the phone rang. He ordered 2 large pizzas and a specialty dessert pizza and a 2-liter bottle of Royal Crown, and then hung up the phone. He changed the channel. He looked out the window for the hawk. He did not see it. He tried pouring another bowl of cereal until he remembered the situation and just had to sit there waiting for what came next. He sat there a long time. While he waited for his 3 pizzas and soda pop to arrive, Steve Caliper changed television channels 11 times before landing back on the one he started with, where it was old reruns of a different male protagonist who also ran around shirtless chasing bad guys and/or women, and he, Steve Caliper, thought about what he would have to do to look and feel like one of those guys on TV. And after he'd made for himself another mental list of action items and labeled them all urgent, he felt more than confident that by this time next year, he'd look and feel and act like a strong, dangerous man. He wouldn't have to pretend to be sick so he could spend his day hiding away at home trying to put things in order in his mind. He wouldn't have to because things would just make sense. He would be living his life rather than just vaguely watching it unfold from a distance. He would be in the driver's seat. He convinced himself that all he had to do was follow a clear set of steps from here on out, acting exactly as if he were that guy, that strong, dangerous guy, until one day he would just be that guy. He would pretend until he didn't have to anymore. There was an expression about that very thing, he remembered, but he could not bring the expression itself to memory. He thought about how long he'd been waiting for his pizza. He did not have a clock in his living room, so he could not tell for certain. He realized he did not want to know. He instead called the pizza joint to inquire after his order, but no one picked up the phone, and even after 25 rings, it never went to voicemail. It just rang and rang and rang. He left the phone face up on the table, ringing out, and tried to get up from the couch. The act of standing up constituted the first part of the first step of his plan, because it was the easiest and most straightforward, and led to all other steps and parts of steps in his plan. But he could not get himself to stand up. He could feel himself sinking deeper and deeper into his place in the couch, as if he were meant to be there. As if he were a heavy boulder made of granite or slate, ushered down the steep end of a mountain in a mudslide, carried down by mud until he'd settled at the bottom and would be left alone to rest there unbothered for many hundreds or thousands of years. He tried to light another cigarette but had run out. He tried to pour cereal but had run out. He took a swig from a bottle and closed his eyes till the fluid stopped threatening to come back up. When he opened his eyes again, the light outside was only a little changed, but he knew it was morning again. The phone on the coffee table was still ringing for ears that could not or would not hear it. He was still wearing his boxers and button-down shirt. His lips were sticky, fingers sticky. The TV was on and it was Carlisle once again. He thought about the plan he had made up and reassigned to tomorrow when it was still yesterday. The plan that hinged on everything starting tomorrow, which was now today. He thought about standing up, maybe, but he could not do it. He did not know if this was a failure of the muscular or nervous system. He was unsure what the difference between those things might feel like. He had sunk so low into the plush cushion of the couch that his hips now sat below his knees. He thought about changing the channel again, but could not bring himself to reach for the clicker. He thought about calling the office, telling Aaron his condition had worsened, that he now found himself, like light years below the surface of the weather, he would say. Light years are a measure of time, not space, Steve Caliper thought. He thought about calling and saying all of this to Aaron, but then he'd have to hang up the phone with the pizza place, which was still ringing, and he did not want to miss an update on his order. He took a swig from the bottle. He had to go to the bathroom very badly, but that would involve standing up, which was still not an option. Steve Caliper crossed and uncrossed his legs. He looked for the hawk out the window and saw only clouds. He sniffed a wet sniff. Maybe he was really getting sick. Maybe he had some respiratory condition and had every reason to stay home today. He thought about what he had to do today to get on track tomorrow. He made a list of action items and marked them urgent. All of the rest of his life lay before him, and could be seen as nothing more than a linear sequence of steps to take, a long, simple chain of decisions one after the other, propelling him into the bright future. A chronology of small, brave choices. A history he could look back on one day and be proud of, maybe. Here was all he had to do. He had to sit up and then stand up, then put his pants on, then get in his car and drive to the health club, and then sign up for a year's membership of the most expensive plan available. This would be an irresponsible and frankly painful financial commitment that would serve as a forcing function for him to finally take his fitness seriously. After spending such a stupid amount of money on it, he would have no choice. Then he would go into the office and do a damn good job and be free from worry about what his colleague might have said to Aaron yesterday while he was not there to defend himself. All of this and more began with the simple choice to stand up. But a part of his mind he had no real visibility over had already begun reassigning these action items to tomorrow or some future juncture well outside the realm of the accessible now. Steve Caliper thought about calling in sick. He thought about a great many things from his place on the couch. It had to be about 9 in the morning by now. Certainly.